Hey friends, it's Teresa and welcome back to my channel. It's been a minute. Life updates aside, I got married. But today's video, I've come up with, I believe, 7 books that I think if you enjoy listening to Reneé Rapp songs, you will enjoy reading these books. I've also had this video on the back burner because I just have not been able to fully describe or encompass how I view Miss Reneé Rapp's songs. But, after much listening, I have finally encompassed it. And much like in my Chapel Rowan book video recommendation, I will link some to certain songs, but I will not be linking everything to one album or one specific song. Like some of these books fit into multiple songs, which I think works out a little better. So let's just hop in the video. And if you like these kind of videos from me, hit like, subscribe, and comment. And if you want to see more from me, I try to upload once a week. The first thing I'm going to talk about is just some thoughts on her music as a whole. I have read reviews, I have listened extensively to her music, I have listened to clips from interviews of how she describes her music. So this is kind of what encompasses this, and this is where I kind of was leaning to when I picked out some of these books. So something I noticed was that she's a very vulnerable songwriter. She does touch on a lot of her personal things, such as what happened to her to inspire Snow Angel, her own kind of issues with relationships, mainly in her most recent album, Bite Me. Just a lot of things that I feel makes her a very vulnerable songwriter. She's very much someone who puts out a lot of her thoughts and her experiences into songs. And obviously, she doesn't always condone the action she does. There's like one line where she goes, "And I would never, ever, ever cheat." Again, she does have that kind of bit of vulnerability, but she's also very, I think, self-aware that some of her actions are not something that you can always like suggest to other people. There are also some more, like, she has a lot of serious lines in her works. There's also a couple of more like funnier songs that kind of undercut the seriousness of the tone that she's trying to write. Like in Tummy Hurts, the whole thing is literally, "Now my tummy hurts." And it's just, I think that was the first thing that caught my eye when I listened to that song. It's like the most singer-songwriters would never repeat or say "my tummy hurts," and here she has an entire song about it that kind of brought her to the forefront of fame. And then there's also "You Could Poison Poison," and the whole like bridge of that. And like I said, the music touches on her personal life, her love life, just I think where she was in the moment that she was writing, her most recent events that happened in her life, her relationship with Toa, the relationship prior, her previous relationships where she had been cheated on in the past. So when I was looking for books, I looked for a lot of things that really touched on some more important topics, and also just kind of had some stories that were a little fun and a little bit lighter, and some that you could like really enjoy if you weren't in the mood for something a little darker and deeper and heavier. The first book I'm going to be I've been talking about this book quite a lot on my channel since I read it. In my top books of 2020 something, I had mentioned that Reneé Rapp should be playing the main love interest in this book, and that has not changed. But that is The Fiancé Farce by Alexandria Belfleur. This is an adult romance following Tansy Adams, who just wants to keep her family bookstore. Both of her parents are dead, and she's kind of living with her stepmother and her stepsister. And she's just trying her best to keep it alive, but it's not going well. She is also getting bothered up the wazoo by family members about when she's going to have a partner, when she's going to bring him to the family dinners, etc., etc. So she makes up a lie that she's dating Gemma Ward, who is a romance book novel like model, is popular. So she says, "I'm dating her, no biggie," and she is like, "This is never gonna happen, I'm never gonna meet her, no one's gonna meet her," and then I can just say that, "Oh, we broke up," after a bit. That is until she goes to her stepsister's wedding. I think it was a wedding. She goes to like her stepsister's wedding and she's like, "Oh, it's fine." And then comes in Gemma Ward, who is apparently marrying her brother is marrying her stepsister. And she's fully expecting this ruse to be broken, and instead Gemma goes along with it and actually goes forward and announces an engagement. The reasoning for Gemma doing this is because she wants to keep her family's like journalism company intact, and the only way she can do that is because if she gets married, because her grandfather who owned it, who would pass it down to her, so that she would only get it on the caveat that she is in love and married. So they have this whole thing, and y'all know me, I love me a fake dating trope. I think it's just very cheeky, very flirtatious. There's a lot of lines in here that Gemma says that has me blushing. So I can only imagine that this works out. I think if Reneé were to ever return to acting, I would vote she would return with this book specifically, because I think that'd be really fun for her. But I do not know Reneé Rapp personally, so I don't know why I'm saying that, but I would have a lot of fun watching Reneé Rapp on the screen. play this character out. But like I said, lots of cheeky and flirtatious lines in this. Something that kind of reminisce of like Shy or Kiss It Kiss It from Bite Me. Just very cheeky and very sexual and just like fun. Like I also just think that Gemma's personality is a little like similar to like the persona that Reneé does put out during interviews, which is very outwardly confident, very cheeky, very like, I won't say brash, but very, very blunt and to the point. So I think I just, you know, I just love this book and I love Gemma Ward as a character. So I think I would just love to see Reneé Rapp play her. So the next book on this list, I think the personality of this character really fits Poison, and that is The Rise of Kyoshi by FCE. This is a YA, not retelling, but like a continuation of the Avatar world, following Kyoshi, who is one of the avatars, the previous avatars, and she is well known for not only living for frickin' ever, but also being very known for her very like, not almost impulsive, little brash personality, despite her being a very like, for like a little more reserved of a person. I think this fits Poison simply because I feel like Poison is what happens when you get an introvert who does not want conflict and lets herself have conflict. That's just kind of the vibe, because I get wound up as an introvert who hates conflict listening to that song, so I think it fits. But I think something about Kyoshi's like known temper, her known demeanor of being just a little bit more impulsive, a little bit on like not super angry, but definitely quick to react with brashness, really fit Poison. And I just feel like her current personality that we see characterized by like other people or characterized just from like what we've seen in the original Avatar series is that Kyoshi is definitely a little bit more of an aggressor, especially in her later years. I don't know, I just feel like past this version of Kyoshi, like toward the end of the book, and maybe like more into her reign as an avatar for like 300-400 years, she probably would really vibe with this song. I also think Katara would also really vibe with that song, but neither here nor there. The next book definitely gave me like, why is she still here moments. Obviously there's like a little bit of a situation with it that explains why is she still here, but I feel like the sentiment is still there, and that is The Charm Offensive by Alison Cochrane. This is an adult romance following Dev, who's always believed in fairy tales. He's a very romantic kind of guy. He's believed in a happy ending. The downside is that he works for a reality TV dating show, so happy endings are not always what happens. But it's fine. Charlie is far from the romantic aspect at all. He struggles with romantic aspects from all around. And when I think a business deal goes wrong, he joins the show in an attempt to rehabilitate his image. And since he can't really do romance, Charlie and Dev start to fake dates, sort of, or like plan dates for him to practice being romantic, to be able to be romantic on the screen. And naturally, the practice becomes more than practice and it becomes a little bit too on the nose. I think I picked this for why she's still here because Charlie does end up dating a woman in this book. It's not a surprise, it's not a shock, and I just feel like it's very much fits the vibe of like Dev understanding why she's still here, but at the same time asking, why is she still here? I want to be with him. Especially with Charlie still having to act like for the cameras that he is falling in love with this girl, and Dev is quite literally falling in love with Charlie in the sidelines. It doesn't have the same level of frustration of why she's still here, but I think there's some ties that can be made that I think would make for a very fun read. The next book I literally just read like maybe a month ago, and that is The Manor of Dreams by Christina Lee. This is an adult gothic novel. I'm sorry if it's not your thing, if you're expecting other things, but this is following two Chinese American families who are fighting to inherit this home. Vivian Yin is dead, who is like a Chinese actress who moved here from China in the 70s, I want to say, and became really big in the 80s and even got an Oscar from it. After the Oscar, she promptly disappears from public life. Now, her remaining family members are kind of gathered at this old family home to read the will, and they find out that the house has been bequeathed to the family of their like gardeners and the housekeeper. Obviously, while they're trying to figure this out and wonder how this happened and why this happened, and trying to figure out this mystery of how their mom died and why she bequeathed this house to this person that they have not spoken to since they were teenagers, we get a dual timeline of Vivian coming to America, becoming great, and then the eerie aspects of the house that and the secrets behind it that may have been buried a very, very long time ago. It's a little heavy. Obviously, we're talking about generational trauma here, but this is queer, which is why it's in here. Don't worry. It's queer, and I think it fits the Song of Willow. I can't give too much away without spoiling it, but there's a literal line that really hit me when I was planning out this video and listening to Willow that was like, just grow your roots, just keep your passion for flowers, and it'll patch over your youth, or patch over youth. Like I said, I can't like give it too much detail, but there's a whole thing in the very beginning that you hear about where the kids and no one is actually allowed to go into the garden. That's like a big no-no in the house, and you find out why, and it's very much tied to a queer relationship. There's also another queer relationship in the modern day. There's a queer one in the past that makes perfect sense with this. I just found this super heartbreaking. The queer relationship in here is very tragic, and it reminds me of Willow, where she's kind of saying, don't cry, Willow, don't cry. It's very much trying to comfort something that was, I don't want to say lost, but has or feels like has been lost in the song, and I think it fits. I recommend this book though. 5 out of 5 stars for me. This is the author's debut novel. The next book is an oldie but a goodie. I have not mentioned this book on this channel for a hot minute, but this book kind of reminds me of So What Now, and then also 23. That is More Happy Than Not by Adam Silvera. This is a YA contemporary novel, kind of set in our world but in the slight future sci-fi situation. It follows Aaron Soda, who's struggling with his mental health after his father commits suicide. He's trying to remember what happiness feels like, and is just trying to pick the pieces up, like thinking it's like his girlfriend Genevieve, thinking it's his new best friend Thomas. As Aaron and Thomas get closer, there starts to become some feelings that really threaten to shatter his newfound happiness. In the background of this, we learn about a program where people can go, because Adam Silvera in his earlier works loved having a little bit of a sci-fi element to it, where people can go and get their memories removed. It's not the whole like memory amnesia swipe, but you can remove part of a certain memory and just yank it out. Obviously there are issues to this, like sometimes these memories are there to shape us as a person, whether we like it or not. So we do see some of the repercussions of what happens when this memory gets ripped away and how much that can change a person, and we kind of see it affect the story as it goes on. I can't go too much into detail about why this gives me So What Now in the 23, because it would literally spoil the entire book, but what I can tell you, it's very much a book where you had high hopes for it. You thought that it was going to be great and it was going to be okay, and then you met with a really tragic and bittersweet ending, which I feel like So What Now, which discusses like the aftermath of a relationship, like do we lie, do we say we're good, do I hate you for the rest of my life, like is there a way to reconcile this kind of situation. And then also 23, which talks about turning another year, but you don't feel any different. It's supposed to be a special year, and it's just kind of blah and the same, which I feel like really encapsulates what happened in this book, truly. Which I think very much encapsulates this book, because you do kind of get the sense of hope, and you wish that things are going to be better, and you're hoping by the next page turn it's going to be better, and then you're met with more just like upsetting news and more upsetting news. So the next book on this list gave me Snow Angel vibes, and this one's I feel like might be a smidgen of a stretch, but I think it fits if you have read the book. And that is The Haunting of Hill House by Shirley Jackson. This is an adult gothic novel. It's not outwardly queer, but you can see some queer undertones when you're reading the book. This follows Nell, who's always just had something not right about her. She doesn't know if it's her mental health, doesn't know if it's because she can see ghosts, or if she's capable of seeing ghosts. In this process, she is asked to join a study where they go to the Hill House to study if ghosts are real. She and like 3 or 4 other people are in this house together, sleeping there. And the reason why they chose this house, why the person viewing the house or making the studies chose this house, is because every time someone lives here, the house claims a life. They don't know how, they're not sure if the house is haunted, they're not sure if something about the house causes like mental deterioration, but that's the whole point of the study. As Nell stays here and obviously becomes more comfortable and meets more people and like tries to kind of find her footing, the more noticeable it gets that the house has chosen her to be its next victim. I chose this because I listened to Snow Angel for like the first time. I've been kind of hesitant to listen to it just because I know the gravity of it, and I don't know if I was in the mental headspace to really understand the song, but To me, Snow Angel, let me just look up the lyrics so I can like have a full encompassing. The song is very much about trying to make something fit, trying so hard to do the things that you think will make you worthy, will make you fit in. And in the process of doing so, you kind of lost yourself. And now that you're here, you're just kind of like, yeah, I'll just keep doing what I'm doing, because it's so hard for me to talk about this because I know it's such a heavy song and I don't want to misrepresent it in any way, shape, or form. Yeah, it's very much like trying your hardest to be something for someone and fit yourself into a mold and get lost in the process of fitting yourself in the mold that you may or may not have self-created for yourself. But I think Nell really fits into the concept of Snow Angel because she is an outcast in every sense of the word. She does not fit in with her family. She does not fit in her work. She just has not this sense of belonging. So when she comes to Hill House, she feels like she belongs a little bit more here, and she tries really hard to fit in. She tries really hard to mold herself into what she thinks Theo will like, what she thinks Luke will like, what she thinks will really just get her to feel more at home. And by doing so, she feels more of an outlier, and she begins to lose herself to the house because she's such in a vulnerable state, which I think really fits as like a parallel to like losing yourself to like partying and drugs, which Reneé has obviously talked about in her interviews talking about this song in this previous album of hers. So I think it fits very much. It's a little bit of a heavier tone, and I think the ending was definitely a bit of a shock, but I think she just Nell fits those Snow Angel vibes of just a very lost soul trying to make things work and just not, and feeling like she's missing the mark no matter what, and then losing herself to the missed mark. The next one is also another gothic novel, and I don't have a physical copy of this yet, but I don't know if I will. But it is an Education of Malice by S.T. Gibson. This book reminds me of like Sometimes, I Think I Like You Better When You're Gone, and Mad. But this is an adult gothic novel following, it's a Carmilla retelling. Laura goes to this hidden college in Massachusetts, and there in this like literature class, she meets Carmilla. Obviously the two of them are drawn to each other, but as they spend more time together, and as maybe Laura is gaining feelings for Carmilla and vice versa, she has learned some deep and dark secrets that Carmilla and the professor of the class are kind of like intertwined in. And the deeper and deeper she gets, the more and more she realizes that this is probably gonna put her life at risk, is the best way I can put it. But I think this really fits the song just because there are three kind of main couples, and I kind of wish one of the couples was more expanded upon because there was a weird power dynamic there that really never went anywhere, but neither here nor there. Really fit this just because there's like a lot of yearning and frustration with a lot of these couples. Laura likes Carmilla, Carmilla likes Laura, but Carmilla also has a thing for the professor has a thing for another vampire, and there's like that yearning and frustration in sometimes. But then there's also this blatant anger that Carmilla has toward their professor that I think fits Mad, and same thing with the professor to her own obsession, which is not Carmilla. I also think there's also like a slow admission in that one of the relationships where that you kind of realize that it's not healthy, that you're like, oh yeah, I kind of like you better when you're not here. That happens in this book that I think fits with I Think I Like You Better When You're Gone. This is a very weird and twisted book. I know a lot of reasons why I didn't like it, but I think it fits those three songs just because of the frustrations in those relationships specifically. I think that if you're looking for something with those same levels of anger and frustration and just like not that level of like yearning and confusion, I think that you get from like Mad and Sometimes and I Think I Like You Better When You're Gone or You're Not Here, you'll get those same levels from An Education of Malice by S.T. Gibson, because I was getting frustrated reading this book, but that's neither here nor there. And the last book is another oldie but a goodie. I was listening to Moon and I was just like, wow, this reminds me of this book, and that is History Is All You Left Me by Adam Silvera. Again, another oldie but a goodie. This is a YA contemporary novel following Griffin, whose boyfriend and first love ever, Theo, dies in a drowning accident. Even though Theo moved to California for college and started seeing Jackson, Griffin never doubted that Theo would come back to him eventually. To make things worse, the only person who understands his heartache is Jackson, who is Theo's boyfriend. But no matter how much they open up to each other, Griffin continues to spiral in his depression. So he has to kind of make peace with this very heartbreaking part of his life in order for him to move on. I think it fits Moon. I was listening to Moon and there's just a lot of like questions like, how can you hate me when we share the same moon? I feel okay until I flip the lights on and you're not home to greet me. Those kind of lines that are in Moon that I feel like very much exemplify what happened in History Is All You Left Me. Theo and Griffin were like longtime lovers, best friends, and then Theo moves to California and they break up because they can't handle the distance. And Griffin has always held that flame, obviously, for staying with Theo, but then Theo moves on and then Theo dies, and it kind of leaves this very like weird liminal space that Griffin is in, where he's like mourning the loss of the relationship while also mourning the loss of Theo at the same time. And I think that the song kind of encapsulates that weird in-between moment where you're like wishing you guys got back together. You understand why you guys kind of broke up, but there's still that like empty space in your life where this person used to be. But that is it for this video. If you like this video, again, in the beginning, like I said, just comment, subscribe, and like I said, I'm trying to get back into doing weekly videos again. I should be feeling more up to content creation, so if you want to see more, I have a couple more reviews and recommendations coming up because I planned out an entire month ahead of time, putting that out there. And yeah, but until then, stay safe and I'll see you guys in my next video. Bye.